All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely. Always ready to jump into these fascinating topics.
Well, today's is an interesting one. We're tackling something that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, I think so too. How many times have we heard the word agile thrown around?
It's like every company, every team claims to be agile these days.
Right, it's become this buzzword. But the thing is, there's a big difference between saying you're agile.
And actually putting those principles into practice.
That's what we're diving into today, the dangers of agile in name only.
It's kind of like, having a sports car but only ever driving it in first gear.
Exactly. You have all this potential power and speed, but you're not really utilizing it.
And we got some really interesting sources for this deep dive that I think,
They really shed light on this whole phenomenon.
yeah, for sure. So let's start with the basics for anyone who might be new to this whole thing.
Yeah, good idea. So what does real agile actually look like?
Well, in a nutshell, Agile is all about flexibility,
Mhm.
empowered teams.
And most importantly, a laser focus on delivering value to the customer.
It's about being able to adapt to change quickly and efficiently.
I like to think of it like a jazz band,
Right, I like that.
Each musician is incredibly skilled in their own right, but they're also able to improvise and respond to each other in real time.
Right. And the audience, too.
Exactly. It's that freedom within a structure that creates something truly beautiful
Yeah.
and that's exactly what we see in a true agile team. You have developers getting constant feedback from users,
Adjusting their plans as they go.
and each team member has the authority to make decisions in their area of expertise.
So it's like a decentralized decision-making process.
Exactly, which is so important for being able to respond to change quickly and effectively.
So where does this whole Agile in name only thing come in?
Well, that's where things start to go wrong, you see.
What happens?
One of our sources actually shared a story about a company that insisted on daily stand-up meetings.
Okay, so a classic Agile practice.
Exactly, but instead of being, quick check-in for the team to sync up management, turned it into this
Oh, no.
micromanagement session, demanding detailed progress reports, dictating every task.
That's not Agile at all.
No, it's the opposite. It's
Oh.
like saying be agile, but only in the way that we tell you.
That's like that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink.
Exactly, and that kind of top-down control just stifles creativity and slows everything down.
It's like trying to choreograph a jazz band note for note. You lose all the magic.
Precisely, and the data backs this up. One study actually found that teams forced into Agile without real autonomy
Yeah.
saw a 20% decrease in productivity.
Wow, that's significant.
They were going through all the motions, but not getting any of the benefits.
Because it's actually counterproductive then.
It is. It's like having all the ingredients for an amazing meal, but, following a recipe that says boil everything for 3 hours.
Oh, yuck.
Exactly. You're going to end up with something bland and mushy.
Yeah. And this is the part that really stood out to me, the cost of this faking it approach.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just efficiency. Our sources talk about demotivated teams, employee burnout, missed opportunities.
And, think about it. Agile is all about adapting to change, seizing those new possibilities.
Right.
But when you're stuck in those rigid frameworks, you're essentially driving with blinders on.
Missing out on all the scenery.
Exactly, and potentially veering off course.
And what really struck me is this idea that Agile, in name only, can actually hurt the customer.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. Isn't the whole point of Agile to deliver the best possible product or service?
Exactly. You'd think so.
But if you're not truly listening to your customers, if you're not adapting to their feedback,
And what are you doing?
then you're just building what you think they want, not what they actually need.
Oh, like making a birthday cake without asking about allergies or preferences.
Exactly. You might end up with a beautiful cake that no one can eat.
Or a cake that no one even wants.
Right. So how do we escape this trap?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
How do we make sure we're truly embracing those Agile principles?
And not just paying lip service to them.
Our sources offer some pretty solid advice.
Yeah, they do, first and foremost. It's about a mindset shift, moving away from that rigid top-down control and embracing a more collaborative, trust-based approach.
So empowering those teams to self-organize, make decisions, experiment.
Exactly. And that requires leaders and managers to let go of some control, to trust their teams to do what they do best.
But isn't that kind of scary for some leaders?
It can be. But one of our sources put it beautifully. They said, the best leaders are the ones who can step back and create the space for their teams to shine.
I love that.
They provide guidance, support resources, but ultimately trust their teams to find the best path forward.
This is making me think about those amazing sports teams where, every player knows their role, they trust their teammates, and they can make those split-second decisions without waiting for the coach's instructions.
That's a great analogy. And in the Agile world, that translates to a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
So teams are constantly reflecting on what's working, what's not, and adjusting their approach accordingly.
Exactly. It's about embracing that iterative process.
So it sounds like the key takeaway here is that true Agile is not about blindly following a set of rules.
It's not a checklist.
It's about understanding the underlying principles of flexibility, empowerment, and customer focus.
And then applying them in a way that makes sense for your specific context.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and your team.
And on that note, here's something for everyone listening to think about.
Think about a time you experienced Agile in name, only either at work, in a personal project, even in a volunteer group. What were the signs? What could have been done differently? Were you in a jazz band that got turned into an orchestra?
That's a really great question. And for anyone who's interested in exploring Agile methodologies further, we've got some fantastic resources in the show notes, so be sure to check those out.
Happy diving, everyone.
Happy diving.